what are we going to look today into is what are the rules, regulations, laws around whether it's an online game, whether it's an offline, casino, poker, horse race, betting, sports, fantasy, esports, everything. All right, let's move ahead. But before I get into all of these, Chinmay just told me that I should speak once more on a game of skill and game of chance. Though Anand made it very clear for us, but still, see, we spoke about three judgments, which is the K.R. Lakshmanan, Satyanarayanan, and Chambur Bagwala. These three are the landmark judgments of this industry, on which this entire industry is running. Apart from fantasy, has some other, we will speak about them later. But yeah, this is the base of this industry. And these three judgments spoke about 2-3 points, which I will tell you, which categorically has created the differentiating points between game of skill and game of chance. So they said, hey, if there is dominance of skill over chance in any way you have tested the game, and you find that there is skill involved. Skill means when you're applying your analytical skills, you're strategizing, you have been training in that, you are using experience of the years, right? You're calculating, all of these are skills. So when you're doing that around the game, it means it becomes a game of skill. However, the courts also said that we're not ruling out the chance of it being that there may be a chance in the game also involved, that their luck factor also favors you. That's not ruled out. But when the skill part is dominant over such chances, it is addressed as a game of skill. That is a simple thing that has been laid down, and on the basis of these, all games can be tested around it. And if they pass these criterias, then of course it will fall in the category of game of skill. Now, with such clear idea of what it can be a game of skill and game of chance, let's move ahead to see what regulations, what laws happen, and how they have evolved and changed, and what's happening around this area. So, regulatory models that are followed in India, first is, we know about it, it's the Public Gambling Act. Okay, so now, as I had also said, that in the Public Gambling Act was adopted by the states in their manner. Some of them just adopted it the way it was. Some of them made changes. So some of them which adopted it just as it is the first criteria, such as Andaman, Arunachal, Haryana, Himachal, Lakshadweep, Punjab, and all the other ones. Okay. And some of them that have developed their own framework is Goa, Sikkim, Nagaland, Daman, Meghalaya, Telangana, West Bengal, and Maharashtra. The second list is far more important than the upper one, and we're going to speak about all of them in the coming slides. Let's move ahead. Now, after this differentiation, now we're going to look how different legislation treat the game of skill by looking at the need. We have a beautiful table, and we will tell you about a few states, how they have looked into to treat which state is going to treat it as a game of skill. Let's move ahead. So see, first it was the Gambling Act, so it's the name of the statute. Then whether there is explicit exclusion for a game of skill. So does the statute have a particular section or an exception or a proviso, or somewhere does it mention that it is that game of skill is explicitly excluded, or is it there is an exemption? So when you open the Public Gambling Act under Section 12, you will find that exclusion. Okay. Similar exclusion for game of skills can be found in the state laws that have been above. So whoever has adopted the PGA, you will find it. Now, relevant definition of gaming, gambling, or game of skill. This is very interesting that none of them have defined gambling, gaming, or game of skill. Okay. But on the basis of the interpretations by the Supreme Court, the precedents and the judgments, that is how it has been moving on the dominant factor. Whichever is dominant, whether it be game of skill or it be its skill or chance, basis that the game is decided in which category it will fall. All right, now let's move to the next piece. Then comes the Telangana game. Telangana has been one of the most interesting cases that I've seen. So it all happened before COVID or during the time of COVID that a lot of states, at least 3-4 states, came up with ordinances and amendments by way of law to ban online gaming because they were under the assumption that gambling is happening and what not happened. So Telangana under has the act from 1974, and there is no exclusion if you speak about game of skill. So in Telangana, actually, there is no gaming allowed. And gambling, it is undefined. Gaming is prohibited. It is defined to include an act of risking money even on a game of skill. This is how they have blocked online gaming also in Telangana by defining it as an act of risking money, even if it is a game of skill. Okay, now here is where the difficulty lies for the operators, that these states do not want to understand the difference between gambling and gaming. They don't want to understand the difference between betting, wagering, and real money gaming, because you will have to have a very broad view, see what's happening in UK, see what's happening in US, see what are the operations that are happening behind the game, see if whether there is skill or not in the game, and then decide whether it is to be subjected under gambling or whether it is to be subjected as that there is risking of money or there is risking of life around it. However, at this moment, Telangana is banned. The Odisha Prevention Gambling Act, again, they have no exclusion, and they say the term gambling, gaming are used interchangeably. So I'll tell you, Odisha is one state which practically is not an invested state for any of the operators in India as of now when it comes to gaming. And you speak about any sector of gaming, okay, from fantasy to esports to real money, none of them are putting their head. Now you will ask me why. So if you ever get a chance to look at their act is still very complicated, and so is the case for Assam also. Okay, it's not fair as an act. It really needs a revision. And from the very beginning point of time when this industry has come into existence, the operators have really not bothered to get into it, because from the angle, is it generating the revenue? It doesn't look like it will generate the revenue, and the other states which are generating revenue, they have banned it. So the war is much more on that side rather than on Odisha and Assam at the moment. It's banned, and we are not putting our heads there. Let's move ahead. Andhra Pradesh, again, another amendment. It was one of those first states which started banning during the COVID times. Andhra happened, then Arunachal, and it was a snowball effect for the South Indian states. And again, they do not have an exception or exclusion, as the PGA puts under clause section 12. And it says it, however, defines gaming, which means playing a game for prizes in money on the results of a game, which also includes a game of skill. However, Andhra has had banned it. Subject to correction, I recollect we had a writ, but I will have to check what is the status of it. But I recollect that we were doing something around it. I can't gather it because fantasy sports is really on my mind right now. But Andhra started off with calling it banned. Yeah, and I'll check on this if they have raised the ban. Yeah. Karnataka was, Karnataka had been a trouble. Again, it has this police amendment bill which it got, and it said, hey, on the same lines, just like Tamil Nadu, it said the same things, that people are dying because of playing online rummy and all that, and it's not in the nature of game of skill, so let's ban it. So there was a lot of action from the operator side. When I mean operators, means the organizations who are running these games, right? So they went ahead to different courts and everything. And earlier, Karnataka had was a state which was allowing full-fledgedly all such games. There was no issue, and they just had to take some permission from the commissioner of police, and it was running very well in the state of Karnataka. But this amendment bill really was a knockdown, and yes, again, the status is it is pending for appeal, if I'm right. Again, under Karnataka, there is something which is in between the courts. Tamil Nadu is the most recent thing which has happened. Again, roll down effect. It also brought in a notification. The government brought in, moved the court. The court did not give a order in their favor. Then they moved the Supreme Court. Supreme Court sent it back to again the High Court, and it said it is a state subject. The government has the right to make regulations. So on the basis of that, they generated an ordinance and they asked the governor to pass it, which is completely banning of the online games of skill. And specifically, they said rummy. And when they say rummy, do you understand that they are completely ignoring the judgment, the base principles, the Bible judgments of this industry? They completely ignored that and sent it to the governor. And governor was like, what is your basis? Look at the precedents. Give us some reasonable understanding around it. So the governor has sent it back, and as per Article 200 of the Constitution, they cannot, the governor second time cannot refuse it. So again, the state assembly has sent it back, and now the governor is bound to give its go. So on that, I'm still waiting for a confirmation. This was the news a week back. That is what is happening in Tamil Nadu. But I'm sure even if it is passed, the operators are not going to sit quietly. They will definitely move the courts. And similarly, I also wanted to speak on the lines of one more state, Meghalaya. So, guys, Meghalaya is like today's case or last Friday's case. Meghalaya had brought in an act, and they had worked very hard. It was just a very, very recent act, and but again, there was so much of political pressure that it has to be withdrawn, and finally, by way of ordinance, it has been legally, by way of the process, it has been withdrawn now. So Meghalaya doesn't have any gaming laws, and neither does it allow any kind of game as of today.